Tucker Carlson on Fox News was an example of an exception to zero, right? This was a person who was delivering, wasn't always stuff we agreed with, although I feel weird even having to say that, right? The number of people who tuned into Tucker Carlson's monologues and found real value in them regularly, and the people across the political spectrum.
Can you just take a moment away for a moment? You and I disagree on plenty of things.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if every time I spoke about you to anyone else, I felt the need to say, "Now I don't agree with everything he says."
Yeah, duh. Even I don't agree with everything I say.
That's not helpful here, I don't think. But seriously, the people we love most in the world, if you agree with absolutely everything they say, figure out which one of you figured out all those things, and then the other of you, grow a pair, get a life, figure out your own brain and figure out what things are actually different in your head and from your experience and what you think you understand to be true from what the person who you are apparently receiving all knowledge from is. So I too feel that pressure, of course, right? Especially when talking about, people on the right. Oh, I'm about to say something nice about someone on the right. Just to be clear, I don't agree with everything. This is insane.
Oh,
none of us agree with everything that anyone else thinks.
Right. And I was joking. I don't even agree with everything I say, but the fact is, one's perspective does develop. Unless you're anything, if you're read only, then maybe
Right. It's just not a relevant point here.
No, it's relevant across the board. The point is the idea that I don't agree with everything X person says. If anything goes without saying, it ought to be that. Right? Especially if the person has anything like a complex perspective on the world. So anyway, I take it back. You can figure out whether I agree with everything Carlson says or not. But I do know lots of people who get a tremendous amount of value about the way he juxtaposes things, and he's very gifted and eloquent. Yeah. And the fact, I really think at the end of the day, you couldn't very well have the next election unfold and have Tucker Carlson sitting on Fox News at the anchor desk doing what he does, because he would keep pulling back the curtain on the thing. And it's not pulling back the curtain because it serves the right, because frankly, I don't think that's most of what he's doing. I think he is actually a patriot, and that what he does is he reveals the hypocrisy of the rulers of the realm day in and day out, and they decided they couldn't shut him up, but what they could do is they could take away the anchor desk and they could leave him as another disembodied voice in a man cave or whatever, right? So here's the point. Fox News is being snapped into line, right? Tucker Carlson is gone. He was uncontrollable. He's now on his own. Mm-hmm. The producer who put that aggressive counter-interpretation, the inverse of what MSNBC did, fired. So the point is, okay, Fox News is no longer important or interesting in any way, because the one interesting thing it had is gone.
So your point is that the corrections are happening, but on the right.
My point is,
one of those, at least one of those corrections is patently bad for our society.
Yes, and I would point out that what Tucker Carlson did in his most recent monologue was comment on this very story. And what he did is was not simple. What he did was he outlined all of the ways that we know that claim that Biden is a wannabe dictator are wrong, because he went through a long list of things that dictators do and described how Biden wasn't doing any of them. But of course, anybody with the slightest sense of irony would understand that there were things that the Biden administration is doing that could be mapped onto every one of these things, and that ought to raise questions. Why is it that so many things do look like what happens in a banana republic if we're not living in a banana republic? And mind you, I don't think any of this is simple, right? This is, is Biden a wannabe dictator? No, as you said, he doesn't want to be a dictator. He wants ice cream. I think that's where Biden is. What we have is not a dictatorship. It's something like an oligarchy, right? Behaving in the same way The people in question are largely behind the scenes. We don't know their names. We don't know what they sound like, but we can infer from the pattern of behavior and what is tolerated and what is not, where we are headed. And it is very much like a new twist on a very old theme, and that is the illusion of democracy, but the reality is control by something unelected, which does not take our interests seriously more than is absolutely required to keep itself in power. And that's a terrifying thing, right? We're talking about the most powerful nation on earth, ferociously armed and under the control of who knows what, with a rapidly declining figurehead whose administration is threatening to jail its primary political opponents, right? That is a frightening set of facts, and I haven't exaggerated anything.
No, that was a straightforward list of or description of the situation, and yeah, that doesn't sound like what I thought if you had asked me 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. The U.S. would sound like. I would think that might be a description of some far-off place that could really use the help of a amazing constitution like ours.
Yeah, and it would be a terrifying if you could teleport that description. If you and I could alert our high school selves that we would be sitting here, in our 50s, describing the current state of affairs in the U.S. by those terms, it would be a completely jarring discovery.
Yeah. No, it would fail to compute.
Yeah, it would fail to compute, and if you did compute, you'd know where you were in history, because you'd know that other societies had failed, and when they did, you would know what tragedies followed, and the idea that we are on such a trajectory would escape no rational person hearing that description.
Yep.